I would like you guys to put your hands together for a nice warm round of applause for Mr. Stan Lee.
Inquisition start.
Okay, I have to say, I have been a huge fan of everything you've done forever, for a very, very long time.
That's as it should be.
Yeah. I used to collect X-Men comic books, and I don't know if you saw this backstage, but I'm wearing my Professor Parking Only shirt for you today. Thank you. I just want to start first off with a question regarding your cameo role on Big Bang Theory.
Excuse me a moment.
Yes.
I rather think of myself not as someone who did a cameo in that show, but as the star of the show. What episode did you sing?
Oh my gosh. Okay, my apologies. The episode that you starred on of Big Bang Theory, how was that experience filming that sitcom for you? How was that?
It's funny, I don't hear as well as I used to, and when someone talks, and you know what it sounds like to me? So you use this for them, but to me just talk.
So the question is, how was your experience on Big Bang Theory as a guest, as a star?
Now I'm going to tell you what he said, because he didn't use the microphone. And I was able to hear him very well. How did that experience affect me on the Big Bang Theory, right? Well, it didn't affect me, it affected the rest of the cast, because they had something to shoot for. They had a performance they had to try to equal, and it made them so nervous and tense. I think that's why they never asked me back again. No, to be serious, which is not easy for me, it was wonderful. The cast, they're the nicest people. I have a photograph of me with all of them, and the girl is kissing me on the cheek. And I gotta tweet that one of these days, I think. Or maybe I did, I can't remember. The producer, Chuck Lorre, is a friend of mine. Years ago, I had a studio in Los Angeles called Stan Lee Productions. No, I'm sorry, Marvel Productions.
That's fine. Let's just call it Stan Lee Productions from now on.
What happened, when I came out west, I had always been in New York at Marvel, and I came out at about 1980 to set up their animation studio, and we called it Stan Lee Productions. And at any rate, Chuck Lorre, the producer of The Big Bang Theory, and also 2.5 Men and other shows, he's one of the most successful guys. At that time, he was a writer working at Marvel Productions, so I got to know him, and he's the nicest guy in the world. And it's a funny thing, because I also got friendly with, who's the guy from 2.5 Men who left the show?
Charlie Sheen?
Charlie Sheen. I have a great memory. I also have gotten friendly with Charlie Sheen, because we may be doing something together. So here I am friends with Charlie Sheen and with Chuck Lorre, and they are not friends, and I'm in the middle. So if ever you hear of me being arrested or shot or anything, you know you heard it first here. But to answer your question, I'm only talking a lot because I hear we have like 3/4 of an hour to fill, and I don't know anything. So if I can talk about anything, it'll help a little bit. Anyway.
So I'm going to say this to you. So, do you hang out with Charlie Sheen?
Do I hang out with Charlie Sheen? Nice way I'm helping you with this.
Thank you.
No, I had lunch with him once. He came up to the office a couple times. We were supposed to get together, and I couldn't make it, or he couldn't make it. But the few times I've been with him, he's a hell of a nice guy, you know? And so is Chuck. I may try to get the two of them together. I may be one of the great peacemakers of all time.
Exactly. The peacemaker, Stan.
Oh, but I'll tell you something else about the show. You asked about the show. The show we were talking about was the Big Bang Theory. Just to show you, I can retain the thought for at least a minute. The Big Bang Theory, you hear a lot of applause and a lot of laughter at almost every line. And everybody thinks they have one of these laugh meters. You know, these things you just plug in and they automatically laugh. But they don't. And they don't have a studio audience at the show. The people laughing are the people in the show themselves, the people working, the electricians, the photographers, all the people behind the camera. They're the ones who are always laughing because they really think it's funny. And I was so impressed when I saw that. But this is not a panel about the Big Bang Theory, so I promise not to say any more about it.
Thank you. All right, let's take a question from mic number 5, please. Center front.
How do you know who mic number 5 is?
It says it right there.
Oh, this technical age.
Okay. Go ahead.
Hi, Stan. Stan, after 20 years in the comic business in the early 1960s, you became an overnight success. You created such iconic characters as Fantastic Four, Spider-Man, Thor, Iron Man, Doctor Strange, X-Men, Daredevil, Ant-Man, I say Hulk, and you assembled the Avengers.
And Sergeant Fury.
And Sergeant Fury. Absolutely. So 11 are the most popular, well-known, loved characters in popular culture.
I like this guy, whoever he is.
And I was just wondering, those 3 years, 61, 62, 63, those 11 characters we just talked about, I'd like to know what those years were like. When it was happening, was it like just something, did you know something amazing and incredible was happening, or was it just like hit the deadlines, get the job done, or did you realize what was really, did you feel what was happening there, the phenomenon?
Well, I never knew that it would lead to an exciting moment like this in Calgary. All that happened, really, I was writing these things and I was hoping the books would sell so I'd keep my job and be able to pay the rent. I don't think any of us ever felt we were onto something that would turn into what it turned into. It happened gradually. You know, DC Comics was the big company, and they were always outselling us. And we were all friends in the business, even though it seemed we tried to pretend we were rivals, but we all had drinks together and we knew each other and went out together. And I was friends with Carmine Infantino, who at that time was the editor-in-chief of DC, which was then called National Comics. So anyway, all that we were trying to do was get books that would sell as well as DC's, so that would mean we were successful and we wouldn't worry about going out of business. And little by little, after the Fantastic Four, our sales started to increase. And after a few years, we started outselling DC. So something told me we were on the right track. But again, I never thought it would end up with movies and talking at big conventions and being with Garrett here, who's an actual live-action actor in a famous series. I mean, wow.
Thank you. That's so kind of you. I have a question. Now, when you did develop Fantastic Four, any of these other characters, was there a period of time where you had to go through a drawing board process where you were saying, well, should it be the Fantastic 7? No. 6? No. 4? I mean, was there things, ideas that you scrapped, and then how long, or did you just come upon it like that?
Well, I knew what I wanted to do. I knew that I wanted a few characters that I would try to treat differently than comic book characters had been treated before. You know, up until then, it seemed that every superhero, and there weren't that many, but every superhero had a secret identity and wore a costume, which revealed his or her real identity. And I used to think to myself, oh no, wait, I can't say that. I said that the other day, and my wife said, Stan, what do you mean you think to yourself? Who else would you think to? So I always try to catch myself. I thought, I didn't think to myself. What was I saying? I've got to stop sidetracking myself. So anyway, I wanted to get some character. Oh, I know what it was. I felt if I had a superpower, which is not to say I don't, but if I had a superpower, my first thought wouldn't be to run out and get a costume and a mask. First of all, I'm a pretty conceited guy. If I had a superpower, I'd want everybody to know, look at me, I can do what you can't do, ha ha. I mean, think of the fun Superman could have had if he told everybody, I'm Clark Kent, and when he walked down the street, people would ask for his autograph and pretty girls would follow him. What an idiot he was to keep his identity secret. So that was one of the things. I didn't want secret identities. Then my publisher felt that the book had to have a teenager. See, these people feel if you're catering to a certain audience, you have to have a character who represents that audience. Just like a lot of kids read Frankenstein and Dracula, that's why there were so many teenagers in those stories. I mean, it's the dumbest thing in the world, but the publishers felt that way. So I had to have a teenager, but I didn't want to make him a token boy wonder or something. I figured I'd make him a real kid who didn't think that was the Human Torch, Johnny Storm, for those of you who haven't been following. I figured that I'd make him a kid who really would rather drive his Chevy Corvette than go chasing villains. And he wasn't just some kid who hung around, but he was the younger brother of the heroine. And the heroine, I didn't want to make her a token girl who doesn't know who the hero is. I made her a heroine who works with the hero, and she knows who he is, and then I figured I'll let them be engaged. That'll be fun. They're going to be married. And they got the kid brother there, so that's 3 of them. And no, I didn't mention Reed Richards. I wanted to get the main hero to be a guy a little bit like me. He talks too much, bores the hell out of people, and the only way he's not like me, he was a scientific genius. And I hate to admit this, but I'm not. And in fact, the most I know about science, I wanted something to happen to them when they were up in the spaceship to give them their power. So I figured, okay, they were blasted by cosmic rays. Now I gotta tell you, I wouldn't know a cosmic ray from a hole in the ground. All I know is the expression, a cosmic ray. Like with Bruce Banner when he became the Hulk. I figured, well, I've already used a cosmic ray. What other rays are there? Okay, he got hit by a gamma ray. I don't know what those rays are. The only reason I didn't have the X-Men hit by any rays, I had run out of rays. I don't know any other. What the hell was the question?
It doesn't matter. Let's take a question from...
Hi, my name is Noel. I just wanted to know, all the generations that grew up reading your comics. My dad was a big Thor fan, and I'm a huge Hulk fan. I was just wanting to know how you felt about, so many generations of people from now all the way back to the 60s that you influenced with your books.
I got all of that except how I felt about what?
Can you repeat that again? I didn't hear it either. Sorry.
How you influence the generations as far as, because there's a moral context to all your books, to all your comics.
There was a moral tone to all the stuff I wrote. Well, I'm not going to deny it. It sounds so flattering. I tried to have a good guy versus a bad guy. I tried to make the good guy be the kind of guy the reader would want to be. I tried never to glamorize the bad guy too much. And I tried to show that crime does not pay, I guess, but beyond that, I really wasn't trying to moralize. If it turned out that way, I'm happy. But all I was trying to do was come up with stories that people would enjoy so that we could outsell National Comics.
Good answer. Okay. Mic number 6, please.
Mr. Lee, thank you for coming to Comic-Con.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you for signing my Marvel Universe t-shirt with all the women on it. And I would like to know what your inspiration is behind the marvelous women that you have created throughout the universe.
I miss that shit. You know what?
Inspiration behind the marvelous women you have created in your universes.
Oh, my wife, I guess. My wife is very marvelous, so I take a little of her every time I create anybody. I don't know, I'm trying to think who the women are. Let's see, there's Sue Storm. There was Iron Man's secretary, what was her name? Penny? Pepper Potts. And I guess there were others. It's so hard for me to remember them all, but... Oh, Mary Jo, let me tell you about Mary Jane. Now, this is really odd, because when John Romita, after Steve Ditko left, John Romita and I were doing the Spider-Man strip. And we had created, not Mary Jane, Gwen Stacy. And I thought Gwen Stacy would eventually be the girl that Spider-Man married, that Peter Parker married. But just for fun, we wanted to introduce another girl, so we introduced Mary Jane. Now, these were fictitious girls that we made up out of our heads. They didn't really exist, and yet, once we started writing them, and I started writing the dialogue for them, Mary Jane suddenly had all the personality, and Gwen, while she was a nice girl, was just a nice girl. And Mary Jane was the one with the fiery personality, and she was hip and everything. And we couldn't control that. We couldn't make Gwen as exciting or personable as Mary Jane, even though we tried. It was like they were living creatures and we couldn't control them. Maybe I shouldn't tell that, because maybe it shows that we were a lousy writer and artist. I don't know. I'll tell you another thing. I killed off Captain Stacy in one story because I thought it would be very dramatic. Captain Stacy was Gwen's father. Was her name Gwen Stacy? I think it was Gwen Stacy. Yeah, okay. If you don't know either, we'll settle for that. So I killed off her father because I wanted a very dramatic moment when the father is dying and Peter Parker, Spider-Man, tried to save him. And he always worried, what would the father say if I married Gwen and he found out that I'm Spider-Man? And Peter Parker didn't know that Gwen's father, didn't think Gwen's father knew who he was. But when Gwen's father lay dying in Peter's arm, he said something like, I'm sorry, in Spider-Man's arm. Spider-Man had tried to save him, but got there too late or something. He said to Spider-Man, take good care of Gwen, Peter. And Spider-Man realized the father knew who he was. And I thought that was incredibly dramatic. And now we can move on with the story. Well, a few months later, I had to go to Europe for some reason. I left the book to Jerry Conway to write. And when I was in Europe, I found out that he had killed Gwen Stacy. I said, we already killed the father. It's like we have a vendetta against the Stacy family. One last thing about Mary Jane, and I'll quit. There was one line I loved, and I don't know why they didn't use it in the movie. I thought it would have been so good. Peter Parker's aunt always wanted him to meet this girl next door, who is a very nice girl. Now, most teenagers, if their mother says, I want you to meet a nice girl, they'll run a mile. Most guys don't want a nice girl. They want a sexy girl, a fun girl, not a nice girl when they're teenagers. Anyway, Peter kept avoiding this. He just would do everything he could not to meet Mary Jane. In one story where I had to meet her, he met her in the last panel. She came to the house, he couldn't get away. The aunt knew she was coming. She made Peter stay there. The door opened up, he opens the door, and there is this gorgeous redhead. And she said to him, what did she say to him? Face it, tiger, you won the jackpot, or some line like that, I forget what it was. But I thought it was so good, and they didn't use it in the movie, and I'm ashamed of them, and I'm sorry, I'm talking too much.
Oh, you're talking just enough. Okay.
Oh, I know what she said. I know. She said, face it, tiger, you hit the jackpot. That was a good line.
That's a great line. Okay, we have another question. Mic number 5. Wave at us wherever mic number 5 is.
You can read that from here.
I can read that, yes. Is that mic 5? Yes, okay, it's over there.
Hey, Stan, how's it going? My name's Jay. Welcome to Calgary. I just wanted to speak about and see what kind of was happening with Amalgamated Comics, the whole crossover between DC and Marvel a few years ago. Did you have a hand in that at all?
I never heard of it. Who's Amalgamated Comics?
It was like the Marvel symbol and the DC symbol put together. It was like Darkclaw with Wolverine and Batman, and Spider-Man was crossed with...
I hate to let you down, but I don't know anything about that.
Really?
But that reminds me of another story. We gotta kill time up. Keep going. This really, to me, is amazing. When we saw that our books were selling after the Fantastic Four and the Hulk and so forth, I decided to change the company's name. We had been called, I think, Atlas Comics at the time. And I wanted to get a better name, I love advertising. I wanted to get a name I could advertise, and I thought of Marvel. That had been the name of the first magazine they ever published in the 30s. I said, let's call it Marvel Comics, because then I could come up with slogans like, make mine Marvel, welcome to the Marvel Age of Comics, and Marvel marches on, and I could have fun with the name. Okay, so we changed it to Marvel. A short time later, DC, which was then called National Comics, and they were always imitating us, they said, obviously, hey, if Marvel changed their name, we're going to change our name. So I understand they paid a high-price expert. I didn't know there were such people who are experts in name changing. They paid a lot of money for a guy to come up with a name, and they ended up with DC Comics. Now, we were Marvel, and they were DC. They would have been better off National. You could do more with the name National. So anyway, I'm sorry to intrude on what we were saying, but I just had to get that off my chest. Thank you for bearing with me. You're a very sweet group. No more interruptions.
Did you want any water at all? Okay.
Never use it.
Never use water. All right. Just throw that away. Okay. Mic number two. Will you wave at us? Where are you? Oh, back there? Okay. Yes, she's all the way back there. All right. Go ahead.
How can you tell where they are?
I asked him to jump and wave, and I see them.
I see a thing but blackness.
Really? No, I see no people
I
in
know.
there.
It could be a soundtrack, and then it's an empty... Oh, well, anyway, go ahead.
Thank you. Question, please.
Great to meet you, Stan. I'm Scott. and we're all thrilled to see Stan the Man. Right on. So my question for you is, I've been a fan of the X-Men for years. The first issue of X-Men, I noticed how they seem very similar in personality in the first issue, such as the Beast and his jargon when he spoke. It was a lot like the Thing. Now, by issue number 2, he was reading very advanced textbooks. That's one really good question I have. What was your main reason for going that route with making the tough guy a genius, which is totally different than the Thing? And I've heard that you're a big fan of the Angel, and what was your reason for making him the personality of the arrogant, brash, rich boy that he was? Make mine Marvel!
Well, I'm glad you're a fan, even if you did ask me a difficult question. I like to give characters definite personalities. When we started the X-Men, for some reason we were in a hurry with that first issue, and I kind of batted out the story and gave it to Jack Kirby to draw, and that was it. Then after it had been done and I read it, I said, I didn't give these characters enough personality. So in the second issue, I always like to go against type. We had a guy called the Beast, who looked like the most uneducated and the toughest of the group. So I figured I'll let him be the one who's the most intellectual. That would be going against type. As far as the Angel went, and I love the Angel. I'm sorry that he had never been featured much in the movies or anywhere. I would have used more of him had I remained there. But I wanted him to be a very rich, very conceited guy. Not a bad guy, but he knows he's handsome, he knows the women love him, he thinks he's too good for anybody, and I thought I could have fun with a character like that. And he knew when he finally took off his jacket and spread his wings, he felt this is the greatest thing in the world and I'm impressing people. So he was conceited, a little bit like me. And I wanted him to be that way. And the same with all of them. I tried to give them all very definite. Now, I did not create Wolverine, and I'm embarrassed that I didn't, because he is a great character, and I love the personality he has. He's almost a bad guy, but he's good, and he's great, and he's tough. He's like you and me. He's tough, and he's wonderful. Okay. That's it.
Awesome. You don't know how this is so awesome. I'm sitting right here, and you're sitting right here, and I'm gonna take a picture of us.
We were sitting somewhere else, we wouldn't be talking.
Can I just, I'm so sorry.
Just my luck, I take a picture with a guy who's younger and better looking. Thanks a lot.
Stan, can I take one more?
There's probably a million taking them out there anyway.
Oh.
Good actor, lousy cameraman.
Lousy cameraman, exactly. Okay, we have another question. Mike 6. Mike 6, wave at me. There she is. Okay.
Hello, Mr. Reed. My question for you is, where in that vast imagination of yours you came up with the concept of the Green Goblin? What shape to, where do you come from? He's my favorite.
You know, once you've created the heroes, you've got them, but you're going to do a book month after month after month, so every month you have to come up with a new villain. So for a while, it wasn't too hard for me because there were so many animals and birds and things. I had the vulture, I had the lizard, I had the scorpion, I had the rhino. You keep coming up with animals. After a while, I ran out of animals. So I figured, well, what else is bad? And let's see, there are ghosts, there are zombies, and there are goblins, and wait a minute, goblin. As far as I knew, there weren't any goblins in any books at the moment. So I figured, okay, I had my villain, but you know me, I like alliteration. I like to have another word with the word, usually beginning with the same letter. So I said, let's say goblin. Gray goblin? No, gray isn't a good color. It doesn't print well. Let me tell you about the Hulk when I finish this. That has to do with... That's the trouble. Everything reminds you of something else. But then I thought green. Ooh, green is a spooky color. It sounds good with goblins, so we had the Green Goblin. And then I had the fun of making him really a wealthy guy, and he was crazy, and he had a son who was Peter's best friend. The more you can entangle a plot, the better it is. Now I'm going to tell you about the Hulk. What I wanted to do was get a monster who was a good monster. I always loved the Frankenstein movie, and I always felt that the role that Boris Karloff played of the monster, he was really the good guy. He didn't want to hurt anybody. And those idiots with torches kept chasing him up and down the hill. So I felt, I'm going to get a good monster. Then I said to myself, I didn't say I thought to myself, it's okay to say to yourself. I said to myself, it could be kind of dull just watching a monster running around, story after story. And I remembered Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. I said, what if he's a regular person who turns into the monster, and the monster hates the regular person, and that regular person hates the monster, but there's nothing they can do about it. Okay. Now the next thing was getting back to costumes. I told you that I didn't like costumes, I didn't want them, I didn't give them to the Fantastic Four, but after the first issue of the Fantastic Four, we got a ton of fan mail saying, we love the book, it's great, but we'll never buy another copy unless you give them costumes. And I realized there's something about superhero fans, they like their heroes to have costumes. So when I did the Hulk, I couldn't figure out how a monster would go into a shop somewhere and say, make me a costume. But I had to do something to please the fans. So I figured I'll make his skin a different color like nobody else, and that'll be like a costume. So I started going through a list of colors, because I'm very thoughtful and scientific. And I went down the list and I got to gray, and I said, I think gray is a good color because it could look spooky. It's kind of dark, but not too dark, and so forth. And as far as I knew, there were no villains who were gray. So I made him gray in the first issue, but what happened was the printer couldn't print the color well. On one page he looked dark gray, on one page light gray, on one page he was almost white, he was black. It was like we didn't know what color our character was. There were no flies on me. I said, I'm going to change the color. So again, I went through a list of colors and I said, green isn't bad. And I decided to make him green. And that's why those of you who might have a first issue of the Hulk might wonder, why is he gray when he later became green? And now you know the inside story, you lucky people.
That's a great story. It's copyrighted. It's copyrighted. Okay, mic 5, where are you? Okay, over there on the left. Hello, young man.
Hello, Mr. Lee. I was wondering, what's your favorite movie based on your comics?
My favorite movie based on my comics? You know, no matter what I say, if the word gets out, the actors, director, and producers of the other movies are going to be mad at me. They're all my favorites. I love them all. But I must admit, I just saw The Avengers the other day. I think that The Avengers will take superhero movies to a new height. I can't wait till you all see it.
Thank you. That was a very nice question from a nice young man. Very good grammar. Good.
Thank very nicely from a nice interlocutor here.
Thank you, Mr. Lee. It says no more questions right now. Oh, well, I think there might be something happening right now. Is anyone backstage coming out for us at all? Hello?
Do you have a surprise for us?
I think there may be a surprise for us. I'm just trying to see if that surprise is on its way out. Lindsay! Oh, hello, Lindsay. Hey. Oh, Emily. Sorry. Emily.
A pretty girl.
Come here. It's my first time in Calgary. Give me a break, okay? We have a card.
I'll see you all later.
Okay.
This kind of surprise.
So, Calgary loves you. And we through my Facebook page, the Ask Emily Facebook page, it's like, I asked the question, if you could say anything to Stan Lee when you meet him, what would you say?
I'd say, if I could say anything to me when I meet me, what would I say?
Sure.
Boy, you are one wonderful guy. I didn't think you'd be so good looking and charming. How do you do it, fella?
We took all of those responses and we put them into this card. So
I didn't say them yet.
I know. So each and every one of you who responded to that Facebook post, your response is in this card right here for Stan.
Oh, wow.
And the art was done by our good friend Kelly Schleely. And she's got the original backstage somewhere, but this is something we really wanted to give you that you could take away from the Expo so that you can know just how much we absolutely adore you.
Thank you, that's wonderful.
And the difference that you have made in the lives of thousands of people around the world.
Thank you very much, and thank you. There's only... There's only one way I can think of to show my gratitude for this lovely young lady who took the trouble to do it. I'm not so dumb. Hey, thank you very much, and thank you, dear. I really love it. I can't wait to go home and read every one of those things.
Everybody, let's thank Emily and Mr. Stan Lee for coming out here. Go see Avengers.
Is it over?
It's over.
I was just getting started.